Hello and welcome to Matcha Mornings, part of the Wander Barn Podcast Network. I'm your host, Amanda Kingsmith, and I'm excited to dive deep on topics around holistic health, the power of food, hormone health, how the practices of yoga can impact our health and well-being, and much more. So grab your cup of tea, settle in, and let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Matcha Mornings podcast. I'm really excited that you're joining me for today's episode of the show. Today on the podcast, I am joined by Tina McDermott. Tina is a chef, speaker, and weight loss coach, inspiring women to find joy in the kitchen, even if they don't like to cook, so that they can live a life that is healthy, vibrant, and free. And she's been working in the health and wellness industry for almost 20 years. She was born to help people through health, wellness, and exercise, and there's nothing more that Tina loves to do than this. And this is exactly what we're talking about on this week's episode of the show. We're talking a little bit about Tina's journey with health and wellness, what inspired her to take this path. We talk a little bit about the idea of being on diets and especially yo-yo dieting and how we can ditch yo-yo dieting and just find joy in prepping simple, healthy foods. And so she shares some of her top nutrition tips as well as some of her top tips for eating healthy and very, very simple types of recipes. So I hope that you enjoy this episode of the show. I hope that you learn as much as I did. And without further ado, here is Tina. Welcome to the podcast today, Tina. I'm really excited to have you here with me today.
Thank you so much, Amanda. Thank you for having me here today.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to have you on the show. And I'm curious if you can share with myself and listeners where you're joining us from today.
I am joining from Bowie, Maryland.
Lovely. I've never been there before, but it sounds nice.
It's near Annapolis. Many people know Annapolis. It was supposed to be the capital of the United States before DC took over. But yeah. Mm-hmm.
Amazing. Well, I would also love to hear a little bit about your journey with health and wellness. Like, what has your background been in terms of living, a healthy and fulfilled life in that way?
Oh my goodness gracious! Yes, I can talk to you all about that, and thank you. That's a big question. First of all, I'm Tina McDermott. I call myself the lazy inspirational chef. I'm a speaker and I'm a weight loss coach, and yeah, we all get our origins somewhere. And you just brought me back to when I was younger. I was anorexic when I was a kid, and I used it for control. And then I went to Italy and gained 20 pounds and came back, and my sisters made fun of me that I was fat. And then, yeah, so that started my emotional journey. And then my sister, when I was 19, my eldest sister, she got cancer at 23. She beat the cancer and came back at age 44, stage 4, and then she passed away 4 years later. I am how old am I? I'm 5 years older I've lived 5 years longer than she's lived, which is kind of weird. And that started my health journey, really, really, really wanting to learn how I can live a life that is healthy, that is free from the gas and the bloating that I had throughout my whole life, and how not to get breast cancer. And that evolved into, I just naturally want to help other people. I'm just this teacher at heart. And what I learned, I want the world to know, like, wow, this is so much better. Like, why don't you drink more water type thing? Or, why are we eating foods that have preservatives in them? And that just evolved to, I'm also an exercise enthusiast because I had a ton of anxiety. And the only thing that calmed that down was exercise, bicycling specifically. And I turned into a personal trainer. So I was a personal trainer from the age of 33 until I think now, 20 years later. And from there, I learned nutrition and I became a nutritional consultant. And now I'm a weight loss coach. And that's what I do. So that's the short of the very long of it. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, no, that was perfect. That gave me lots of jumping off points. And I think it's always interesting to hear kind of how our background can impact our desire to learn more about health and wellness. And I know it's very much been my story as well, but just hearing, having an eating disorder, gaining weight, emotionally eating, losing a family member, and then really having this like almost like an awakening of like, that's not how I want to live my life. What can I do to live a little bit better? And so I'm curious at that point when you made that decision to, hey, I'm going to start changing my life, like, what did that look like? Like, was it cutting out processed foods, not eating fast food, or like, what exactly was that?
Oh my goodness. I have to go back, and you're really making me think. What was that made me change? Well, you know, the very first thing that I did, I haven't talked about this in a very long time, is I became a vegetarian in my 20s. So I didn't eat meat for 10 years. And at that time, I didn't know enough about nutrition. And I can honestly say I was a very unhealthy vegetarian. I had still a lot of health issues, gas, bloating, constipation, nervousness, anxiety. I can go on and on. So that was the very first step that I took. And I'm not going to tell you that I did it right, because I didn't. And I'm not saying that I think I respect everybody who wants to be vegans, vegetarians, it doesn't matter. I just know that I did that in the wrong way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I think that I was, I guess, pescatarian for a little minute as well. And I think one thing I found was like, okay, well, if I'm not going to eat meat, I need to fill myself up with other things. And I know there was a lot of, moments where I wasn't eating things that were healthy. And you can find things in the supermarket that are quote unquote like vegan or vegetarian. And you start looking at the ingredients and you're like, what am I actually eating? And
Right.
the same thing with, things like gluten free or sugar free or dairy free. I mean, you still have to be aware of like what's in it to determine if it's actually like a health food or not, if that makes sense.
Oh my goodness, absolutely. Because they say it's gluten free, it's good for you, or it's dairy free, it's good for you. But you know what they do, Amanda? They take the gluten out, they take the dairy out, but they put the sugar in to make it taste good. And therefore, it's a fat free craze in America. If you remember that, America became more fat after this whole fat free craze. And yeah, so when I was vegetarian for all those years, yeah, you have to fill yourself up with something. And what did I fill myself up with? Carbohydrates.
Mm-hmm.
Carbohydrates, processed foods. I'm Italian, so we had lots of pasta and bread, and hey, I'm vegetarian. I'm supposed to be eating, but you don't realize, yeah, as vegetarian, supposed to be eating a lot of vegetables. Although I was eating them, but I was still eating the glutinous foods and other foods that were disrupting my health. Yeah, very, very, very not non-balanced vegetarian. And then one day I was in Italy. I was guiding bike trips. I guided bike trips for about 5 years in my late 20s, early 30s. And I got a hold of a piece of prosciutto and I just decided to eat it. And I remember to this day that I really felt good that day. And even during my years of being a vegetarian, there were days that I didn't feel good. I was weak. And I'm like, I need fish. I'm going to cheat. And I felt terrible about it, back to the emotional eating. So I would eat tuna fish and I'd feel so much better. And looking back, again, it just wasn't balanced. And now I know how to, if I wanted to become a vegetarian or a vegan, I know how to balance it and become a healthy person. Well, I am a healthy person, and teach people how to be healthy. So yeah, that's my origins. That's where I started. And that just evolved to where I am today. And also I suffered through Lyme disease, which was another big hit on my system that I probably had when I was a teenager, but it hit me hard in my 30s. And I'm completely over the Lyme disease as well.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing to hear that you were able to overcome that. And yeah, not to harp on the vegetarians out there, because I think that everyone should make their own food choices that are good for
Yes,
them. But I had a very
absolutely.
similar experience where I was actually I was living in Mexico and I was at a salad bar and I was just like salivating over this like salad bar chicken, which is like, nothing to write home about. And my husband was like, just eat the chicken. Like, why are you being weird about this? And I was like, no, I don't eat chicken anymore. And he's like, eat the chicken. And I ate the chicken and I felt like all my cells did a happy dance and I just didn't look back from there. I was like, okay, I eat meat now.
Yeah, isn't that funny? You had the cells made a happy day, had a happy dance. I love that. I love it, and that's really what it was. And again, I think you can be an extremely healthy vegan vegetarian. You just need to learn how to balance. And I didn't know how to balance it, and
A
and
hundred
you know,
percent.
yeah, I just didn't know. And if your body's craving something, listen to your gut. Listen to your gut. Listen to your instincts, and that's probably what you need. And anyhow, I'm not going to harp on that anymore.
Yeah, no, for sure. I completely agree, though. Like, I think that I needed to do some more research on how to balance out what I was eating and make sure I was getting enough protein and minerals and all that sort of stuff and
Mhm.
whatnot. So it sounds like we had a similar experience with that. And then one thing I know you work with people on, and you've mentioned already, is this piece of emotional eating. And this is something that I've, certainly experienced throughout my lifetime and still have to be conscious about. Can we talk a little bit about emotional eating and maybe how we like work through that?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to talk about that. As a matter of fact, it's what I say that mastering your psychology. It's what I call it, mastering your psychology, Amanda. Is the inner game, and this inner game is 97.5% of the game of success with your health, your wellness, with anything, your entire life. Is that inner game is really mastering the emotions and not like controlling them, not in the least. It's a matter of coming to peace with them. As a matter of fact, one of the processes that I do with my clients is I call it the peace process. And it's so funny. I've had so many emotional issues throughout my entire life, and I have seen a lot of therapists through the years, and a lot of these therapists, they want to take you back to your childhood, or they want to take you back to that moment that you felt anxiety. And I call that, you know, no, I don't want to go back there. I don't want to revisit those moments. My older sister wrote, my other, I had two sisters who Rose. She always says to me, Tina, you never remember anything from your childhood. I said, well, that might be a good thing. Let's not go back and remember. So I'll tell the therapist, I don't want to remember stuff. I just want these emotions to be gone. I want to be healthy. And about 4 years ago, I learned this peace process from Christian Michelson. I'll give him credit because he did an amazing job with me personally and with my emotions and taught me how to do this peace process. So basically, what we do, Amanda, is when say you what's a food that either you or someone in this world you think is going to binge eat on. What do you think it is?
I mean, I think chocolate's a big one. I think ice cream's a big one. Chips are definitely one for me.
Okay, well, let's talk chips. Is that okay with you? Let's talk
Yeah.
chips.
Yeah, of
Now,
course.
so it'll help you get the crate. So you're sitting there and you're in front of a bag of chips, and they are your favorite chips on the planet Earth. Which ones are they, Amanda?
There's a kind that I really like. It's a brand that's in Canada. It's kind of like Doritos, but it's better.
Okay, so they're corn chips that are full of uh,
Cheesy, fake cheesy goodness.
fake cheesy goodness. Okay, or not goodness, and that's okay. So you're in front of this bag of chips, and what I ask my client to do is like, okay, you're about to dive in. And then you have to look at that and say, take a second and go inside and think, what are you feeling right now? Are you feeling joy? Are you feeling, or maybe it's after you're done eating the bag of chips? Do you feel guilt? And whatever that, let's not even put a name on it. Let's find the feeling in your body. So we close, and we stay out of the mind. We don't try to think through the emotions. We just kind of feel the emotions. And then we find the most intense part of the emotion and we surrender to it. It's almost like hypnosis, but I can't call it hypnosis. And you just stay with the feeling and surrender to it. And if you can, you say it's okay, or you send it love. and you let that feeling grow, you let it shrink, you let it move. Sometimes it moves and ping pongs all over the place. Other times it just settles in one place. Like for me, it would always be in my throat. Funny thing, I'm a speaker, and my feelings would always go to my throat or my mouth, my teeth. So crazy. And then you just surrender to it and allow them to breathe and live and be there, staying out of the mind, because we try to think our way through things, and there's no thinking here. There's just releasing it into the universe if it wants to go. I've been able to help people let go of these emotions within minutes, sometimes hours, and sometimes it takes several sessions. And one time, I remember this one time, Amanda, my one client, she's like, all I want are the cream on the top of all those donuts. I want to go and buy, not donuts, cupcakes. It was the icing on top of cupcakes, right? And she says, I want to eat the icing on all of the cupcakes. So we did this peace process on it. And the feeling for her ended up in her chin. That's where it was. And towards the end, we got it down to a level 2. I did what I call little mystic stuff. I said, why don't you put an imaginary slide on your chin? You don't have to push the feeling down. You just put that imaginary slide there and see if it wants to go down the slide or not. She broke out laughing, hysterical, feeling so much joy. I felt it. And I'm like, oh, what's going on? And she says, it's gone. The feeling's gone. I don't know where it went, but I have no desire to eat the icing on cupcakes. And
Wow.
that's how we do it. It's just a matter of surrendering to the feelings. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
know I can take you through the peace process, but let's not do that on a podcast with your chips.
Yeah. No, for sure. For sure. I've done a lot of work with emotional eating too. So I feel like I can really relate to that. Like at this point, I feel like I can bring a lot of consciousness to, okay, I'm like not even eating mindfully. I'm just like feeling angry and I'm just shoving them into my face. Like, am I even tasting these? No. And that's when, they're all gone. And then it's like, oh, there's a lot of like guilt and shame that comes from that. And it's interesting because I feel like if you can heal a relationship with food and come to a place of understanding that food is, a life force and it's nourishing and it can be such like this beautiful, enriching experience. It's
Mhm.
like the total opposite experience to having like an emotional eating experience where,
Yeah.
for me, it's like not tasting it, not enjoying it, just like putting it in my mouth as a way to almost like cope with the feelings that I'm feeling. And I mean, nobody wants to experience bad feelings. Like, of course we don't. Nobody wants to feel angry or sad or ashamed or anything like that. But one thing I've really learned is that like masking what I'm feeling with food doesn't make it better because it's just adding more feelings to the pile.
Yep. That is correct. It adds more feelings. I like the way you said that. Thank you, Amanda. Yeah, it adds more
Yeah, no worries.
feelings. Add more feelings to the pile, and we don't want to add more feelings to the pile. You want to stop, just like you said. Recognize you're shoving your face. Take 10 deep breaths. And I teach my clients how to do the peace process themselves. Personally, I find it much better when I have somebody with me, taking me through it and keeping me present with the peace process. And I can do it by myself. And I teach my clients to do it themselves. And it's so funny. What did you say? Your relationship with food changes because you're not eating mindlessly. I had lunch today. And after lunch, I had this wonderful chicken salad. And I just wanted to change the flavor of my palate and I wanted some chocolate. I always have dark chocolate in the house, and I made this wonderful freezer chocolate. Have you ever made freezer chocolate, Amanda?
I don't know. Tell me about it.
Oh my gosh, I got to tell you about my freezer chocolate. It is so healthy for you. And when you eat one piece, it's frozen. So it takes you a little bit longer to eat it. You're not going to eat 20 pieces. You're going to eat one piece and walk away. So you get 3 tablespoons coconut oil, get some really good organic, unrefined coconut oil, 1 tablespoon of really good cocoa powder, a pinch of sea salt. And if you want it just a little sweet, you can put some monk fruit in there if you can't handle the bitterness of chocolate. So I use some confectioner sugar monk fruit, which doesn't have any impact on your on the glycemic index, or it doesn't addict you to the taste of sweet or anything like that. I just put a little, like a half a teaspoon in there. And then you melt it in a double boiler, and then you pour it into silicone molds. Or if you don't have silicone molds, you get a piece of parchment paper and you just pour it on a cookie sheet, and you pour that on there and like bark, and add a little extra sea salt to the top, and then freeze it, and then break it up and into little pieces and throw it into a baggie. But if you do the silicone molds, you can have a blast getting silicone molds. My sister gave me a whole bunch of them, and I have some. I have pineapples, I have caterpillars, I have butterflies, I have hearts, I have all these little colors. So also, you pour it into the molds and then freeze them and then pop them out. But also, you can put almond butter in the chocolate as you're melting it in the double boiler, or cocoa nibs, or this batch I put goji berries, so that you have this burst of antioxidants as well. And there's so many different things that you can do. And it is so much fun making your own chocolate, especially from a chocoholic like me.
Yeah, no, that sounds amazing. I'm definitely going to try that because it's so simple. And yeah, I love the idea of different shapes and whatnot. The pineapple sounds super cute. And then just being able to have it in the freezer. We always keep my husband loves things like cold. So we always keep our chocolate in the fridge. So it's often, quite chilly. But then if you bring it out, it becomes room temperature and it's easy to eat the whole bar. So I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, and they're little nuggets. Like if you get the little piece, the little molds, like I have, and you can get them everywhere. You can even get bunny molds and Christmas molds and all those fun stuff. You pull one piece out, and it will melt if you don't eat it in your hands. So it's not like you can pull a bunch of them out. And it really satisfies that craving. I do cooking shows for a lot of corporations hire me, and I'm here in my own kitchen doing virtual cooking shows for them. And I did 2 shows this week making the chocolate, which I'm very happy. I have chocolate in my freezer.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Hey everyone, we're just taking a quick break from the show to talk about Energy Bits. Energy Bits are spirulina tablets made of one ingredient, algae. Nothing added, nothing subtracted, just 100% plant-based algae nutrition. No sugar, no caffeine, no gluten, no soy, no additives, no GMOs, no preservatives, no binders, nothing artificial. Just 100% algae, 100% green, 100% healthy, and 100% pure. Pure and simple, the way food should be. They have high protein, high beta carotene, high iron, high chlorophyll, high antioxidants, and over 40 plus vitamins, including the B vitamins. They have electrolytes, including magnesium, potassium, and are a great source of essential fatty acids. Honestly, I could go on and on and on about how great Energy Bits are for you, and that's why I've decided to partner with them. If you want to learn more about Energy Bits or order some yourself, you can head on over to energybits.com to learn more. Use the code WANDERBARN to get 20% off your order. Once again, that's energybits.com and use the code WANDERBARN for 20% off your order. All right, back to the episode. I love that. I definitely want to talk about the cooking shows a little bit, but before we get to that, one of the other things I wanted to pick your brain about, and I know this is something you specialize in, is this idea just around like weight loss and yo-yo dieting. And that just makes me kind of think about how, with what we're talking about with finding better choices and, not emotionally eating, like I think there's just a million diets out there. There's like a million billboards and advertising campaigns and commercials that are all telling us like to eat a certain way and look a certain way and that type of thing. And I think that there's so many people who are striving for, a body that's different than the one that they have, which, having goals within yourself for health and wellness and for fitness, I don't necessarily think is a bad thing. But when we end up doing these like extreme diets on and off, I feel like that's where we end up in these kind of tricky situations. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
My thoughts are going rampant right now, Amanda, because I've been through the yo-yo dieting myself. I've been through, in my earlier years, teaching people how to do those extreme diets. And I don't do that any longer. The thing is, I even wrote I'm a conglomerate author in a book, Cruising Through Menopause with Grace, Gratitude, Confidence, and Ease. I just have a chapter in the book. And the title of my chapter, I'm telling you about that because the title in the book is Learning to Love My Body. Learning to Love My Body. Ever since I gained those 20 pounds when I was a kid, trying to get rid of thinking I'm fat my whole life. It's something called body dysmorphia. I always thought I was fat, and I was like 120 pounds and a size 2, right? And, I also was a gym rat, like body conscious, always. And I've learned to love my body. I've learned to love every little piece of my body and every single little fat cell, because I'm 50, I don't know, I'm 53. So I'm starting to do like a little perimenopause and things are shifting. And every day I just have to give grace and gratitude to my body and say, thank you for everything you've done for me over these 53 years. Thank you so much. And just love every little bit of me, no matter the fact that I'm, a little heavier than I was when I was 20, and that's okay. It really is. And back to, I don't believe that we need to do any of the diets that are out there. I call them capital D, capital I, capital E with a small T, because we don't want to diet, Amanda. We want to live it. We want to live our lives. And would you like to know my philosophy on eating? I think that will segue really well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%.
Thank you. I have a philosophy of eating, Amanda, that encompasses everyone on this planet, from vegans, vegetarians, pescatarians, omnivores, carnivores, meatitarian, herbivores, whatever you want to call yourself. What I respect and love everybody in this world. And if we all think in these simple terms, this is it. Eat foods that walk, fly, grow, or swim. Eat foods that walk, fly, grow, or swim. The closer to the way that food was made by Mother Nature, the better it is for us. The more that it has been processed, the worse it is for us. So when we go back to, the basics, eat foods that walk, fly, swim, or grow being the most important. 3/4 of our plate are full of vegetables. I say vegetables are king, fruits are queens, because we want to do fruits second because of the sugar content of them. 3/4 of your plate are full of vegetables. A little piece of your plate, some nice, clean, lean, pastured proteins, organic eggs, and a little piece of your plate, like a tablespoon or two of some really good fats, avocados, nuts, olive oils, seeds, things to that nature that are less processed. The least processed they are, the better they are for us. And we do need to be eating 10 to 12 cups of vegetables a day. Hence, 3/4 of your plate should be vegetables. Anyhow, that's my philosophy on eating, and no more diets.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think that I'm really on the same page with that. I think when I was in my late teens and kind of early 20s and even into my mid 20s, I was, similar to you with like the body dysmorphia, look at photos and I'm like, God, I was so skinny. And I just was constantly thinking about how I could be smaller and fitter and that type of thing. And I think this is really common, I think, especially with young women and, many young men as well. But, there was so much like restriction in my life at that point, so many things that I wouldn't eat because I was afraid of them making me fat. And I feel like it took a lot of the joy out of experiences. And then it also, caused a lot of anxiety and then emotional binge eating and that type of thing. And I just feel like now I try to eat, organic foods, whole foods, clean foods, and enjoy the food that I'm eating, even if it's not like, the perfect healthy meal and that type of thing, especially, when I'm traveling and that type of thing.
Bless the food. I just have rampages of appreciation for the food, even if I'm out and about like you at a restaurant someplace. And I was with my clients this past weekend at a conference, and they're like, "You're going to eat that?" And I said, "You know what? I am so grateful that I have a piece of chicken on my plate right now and some nice vegetables." I am just going to bless them and have an attitude of gratitude, and everything is going to be fine. And you can't be perfect all the time. It's okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I think
okay.
too, you can get into, and this is sort of what I found, like you can kind of get into, being addicted to like being too healthy and that type of thing, and then guilting yourself because you're eating something like chocolate and it's, completely fine to have, your dark homemade chocolate. Like there's actual health benefits to that type of thing. And sometimes you just can't control everything you're going to eat. And I think it's so much more important how we like mentally process that in terms of how our body can physically process it than anything else.
There's actually a name for it for people who are like super healthy eaters and like overboard on it. I don't remember what
Yeah.
that's called.
It's like it's with like an O or something like that.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it, but that's fine. It doesn't matter. It's just I know that there's a term for that when people are like too consciously healthy, and that's not balanced. Remember, we want to live a life that's balanced, and it's okay to have. You know what? It's okay to have a bite or a piece of pizza every once in a blue moon too. Okay, it's okay. Your body will be able to handle it. It's the load. It's what you do consistently over time that gives you results. Consistency plus time equals results. So if you're going to have something that's not good for you, enjoy every single bite of it. I talk about this in my lectures all the time, and I've got this awesome image of this woman eating a brownie, and she's got chocolate all over her face and a big old smile. And that's okay. Have some fun with it. Just don't do it every day, every day, every day, every day. Yeah.
For sure. I love that. That makes me think of like a little kid. Like I have this photo of myself. I must have been, I don't even know if I was one yet. And I'm just like eating this. I don't know if this was a Canadian food or not, but it's a wagon wheel. It's like jelly and marshmallow and some wafer and then all covered in chocolate. I'm just like going to town on this thing and my face is covered in it.
I've never, I've not, I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. That's funny. That's adorable. Isn't that adorable?
I think
Oh,
it's just a reminder, like it's, I mean, probably not the best food that like a 1 year old could be eating as they're developing, but like, I'm enjoying the crap out of that thing in that photo. Like I'm clearly quite pleased.
and that's okay. It's okay to have that every once in a while. And I remembered the term. It's orthorexia, something like that. Orthorexia.
Yeah.
Anyhow.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's it. Mhm.
Anyhow, learn to love your body. And it's okay if you're going to eat something that is not on the menu. Okay. As long as you just get your vegetables in, because vegetables equal life. Eat your vegetables, eat your healthy meats. And if you want to eat proteins, and eat your good fats on a daily basis, and just have gratitude and appreciation for everything that we have. For Pete's sake, we're not cavemen and cavewomen who have to forage for our food every day. We have it right here. And anyhow, I don't know where I went with that, but
No, for sure. I love that. And I think that that is, something to certainly be grateful for. And on that note, I know we mentioned a little bit earlier that you do the cooking shows, Tina's Joyful Kitchen. One of the things that you're big on is preparing simple, healthy foods, which I think this is where a lot of people get caught up. I think there's kind of the mental portion of it and like the emotional eating, like we've talked about, and maybe just the habits. But then I think there's also people who just don't know what to make. Like they want to make changes, they don't know what to make. So I'd love to hear maybe some of your like, top recipes or favorite things that you like to teach people to make that are simple and easy.
yeah, super, super simple things. Salads in a jar. Have you ever made salads in a jar, Amanda?
So I've seen it on like Pinterest and stuff, but I've never actually made one myself.
It is so simple. It is so simple. You make your own dressing, of course. That is also so simple. 2 parts olive oil to 1 part acid vinegar, balsamic vinegar, lemon juice, whatever you want. Salt and sea salt, freshly ground black pepper. make a dressing out of it. Put 2 tablespoons on the bottom of the jar. And then you're going to cut up vegetables that can marinate. Name some vegetables that can marinate, Amanda.
I mean, most vegetables can marinate, can't they?
Well, you can, but not lettuce. You don't want lettuce to marinate,
Oh,
right?
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. So you want to marinate some carrots, celery, even olives. But the softer ones, I put them up higher. If you have artichoke hearts, you can put those in the marinade, the dressing. Tomatoes, the little baby tomatoes, I put those down in there on the bottom. So you layer, right? It's all these layers. Zucchini, if you want to chop up zucchini, cucumbers, you layer all of those and you get 5 jars out. Or if there's two people for lunches, and you get 10 big wide mouth mason jars. I have these up on my YouTube channel too, so you can see it there. And then you're going to layer the protein on top of that, where the protein's not going to touch the dressing. Some chicken, some chicken from maybe a rotisserie. Maybe you just boiled up a whole bunch of chicken. Maybe you've got some tuna fish you want to put in there. What about hard-boiled eggs? Choose your protein, put it in there. On top of the protein, you're going to put your lettuces, like 2 cups of lettuce in there. And then if you want a little bit of cheese, I would put the cheese at the very top. Put the lids on and put them in the fridge. When you're ready to eat lunch, you have fast food right there in your refrigerator. You grab a jar, you shake it up, you get a fork, and you eat it. I make these when I travel, if I'm going to be gone for a couple of days, because they're easy to transport. They're easy to put in my cooler bag and easy to eat. I don't have to worry about, oh, where's a bowl? Where's a fork? I have a fork. I have all of that. So salads in a jar, to me, are number one. Number two, super easy, nutritious food that I recommend that people make are smoothies. Do you like smoothies, Amanda?
I love smoothies, and especially I live in Mexico, so it's super hot. So we make a smoothie like pretty much every day.
Awesome. I make smoothies. Again, you get your mason jar. You can even get an immersion blender that will fit into the mason jar, or you get a regular blender. You start with water. You put in a very healthy protein powder. Be careful. There's a lot of proteins powders on the market that have a lot of artificial ingredients in there. I personally had heavy metal poisoning when in my 20s. No, it was my early 30s from that. So be careful. There are certain brands that I recommend that they can get from an ebook that I wrote. So the protein powder, then you're going to put your fruits and your vegetables. So I put spinach, kale, whatever greens you want. You can even do cucumbers, broccoli, carrots, whatever vegetables you want. I always put in a piece of frozen ginger. So I get my ginger roots and I cut it up into like 1/2 inch pieces and I freeze them. And I put ginger in there because it's anti-inflammatory and that's really good for you. And what else? What am I missing? And a nut. I'll put some kind of a fat in there because you need a fat with every single meal. And for my fat, I'll either use cashews, almonds, walnuts, hemp seeds, flax seeds, chia seeds, sometimes an avocado, half an avocado. Blend that all up. You can even make them for the whole week. I like them fresh and then eating them. And you can even put cocoa nibs in there. There's so many combinations for smoothies. So smoothies are another quick meal. My husband, he wakes up at 5 a.m. He's an athlete, so he's really conscientious about his health. And every morning he wakes up at 5, he's out of the door by 5:30 with his own homemade smoothie in his hands. He puts all of his vitamins in his smoothie too, because he's a nutcase. And so if he can do it and he's lazy and he doesn't cook, I meant to say, if he can do it, anyone in this world can make their own smoothies. And so
those are absolutely.
Yeah, those are my top 2 simple meals that you can make and have fast food in your refrigerator.
I love that. It's like reframing fast food instead of, swinging through the McDonald's drive-thru and getting a burger and fries, which I think most people listening to this show probably don't do very often, but sometimes it's tempting to just order something in like pizza or whatever. I think that that's great to have that stuff, prepared and on hand, because I do feel like it's like so much of it around healthy eating is decision making. And I can relate to the idea of like the end of the workday happens and like I'm tired and like we don't even have kids. Like if you added kids to the mix, then it's like you're trying to make decisions for other people too. And sometimes it's like, let's just order in. Like it's just easier. We don't have anything de-thawed. We haven't prepared anything. We don't want to go to the grocery store. So I mean, I definitely get it. And I think that having that stuff and those recommendations is really great.
I can talk for hours about simple healthy foods. I don't think we want to take hours doing it all, but let's just start there.
Yeah, no, for sure. For sure. I'll make sure that people can go check out everything that you're up to as well. Before we wrap up, though, I wanted to ask you, do you have any other, tips or pieces of advice or words of wisdom that you want to share with anyone, just around the topics that we've talked about, like emotional eating, getting off the diets, and just eating more intuitively, eating healthier and cooking simple, healthy meals?
All of it. Everything, every single thing that you just said, every single thing that you just said is, you know, listen to your gut, listen to your instincts, and take a minute and check in with your body. Check in with your body. Just close your eyes, take 10 long, deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. And that calms down your central nervous system. And it will help you be present around what you're doing, whether you're emotional eating or you're just feeling anxious or whatever it is. Take a moment and take a long, deep breath. And I bet you anything, I call it a pebble in your shoe. There's probably a pebble in your shoe that you didn't realize was there that's aggravating you. So you just need to deal with whatever that pebble is. And if that pebble is having a conversation with your loved one, hey, what you said this morning really upset me. And I would appreciate if you didn't wake me up at 5 o'clock in the morning again, or something like that. That pebble in your shoe, whatever it is, introspection. Think about it, and resolve it. Don't let it fester, because those can create even more emotional issues and drive you to eat. But take those 10 breaths, go inside and figure out what's going on. What is that pebble? And deal with that pebble. And life is made for joy. We are on this earth, Amanda. We are on this earth for joy, pure and simple, pure and simple. And if you are not experiencing joy right here, right now, in this moment, what is that one thing that you can do to take a step closer to joy? We're here for joy.
Amazing. That was beautiful. Thank you so much for that. And I completely agree with that. I just think that, yeah, I often think about like why we are here, why have we been put on this planet? And I do come back to like, I'm not here to just like, slave away on my computer and pay bills and, eat nothing but, plain lettuce, which I was doing for a period of time in my 20s. It's just, there's so much more to life. And I say that too with like, I love healthy food. And I think that there's so much like amazing, nourishing joy that you can get from like cooking a really like great meal for yourself. So it doesn't always have to be ice cream, even though sometimes it is ice cream.
I'm going to the beach next week and I'm going to have a little ice cream, although I will make some of my own, but I will have some regular ice cream just because life is for joy.
Yeah, absolutely. Amazing. I love that. Tina, I know you have lots of places where people can find you. You mentioned an ebook. Can you share all of that with listeners so that they can learn more about you, follow along, and learn more?
Oh, thank you for asking, Amanda. Absolutely. You can find me. I have an ebook called The Joyful Gut Reboot Guide, which goes through all of the basics of nutrition and basics of how you can live a healthy, vibrant, and free life. And it's called The Joyful Gut Reboot. And you can find it at tinamcdermott.com, TINAMCDERMOTT.com/JG, standing for Joyful Gut. Joyful Gut. And if you'd like to find me on YouTube, it's tinamcdermott.com/Tina's Joyful Kitchen. And you can see my YouTube shows and learn how to make smoothies and salads in a jar and freezer chocolate and brownies and a whole bunch of other fun things that I put up on there.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm definitely going to check that out. I'm always looking for, new easy recipes and that type of thing. So that sounds perfect and really great resource for anyone who's, looking to make a change or looking to get started with this type of thing. So thank you for everything you've shared today.
Thank you, Amanda, for having the show and for having me on your show and for your vision of health for the world. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. Bye for now.